Have you ever imagined living in a country where it's illegal to have a haircut you like? Where there are only 28 officially government-approved hairstyles? Welcome to North Korea, the most isolated and mysterious country on the planet. Here, married women are required to keep their hair short. And don't even think about copying Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un's hairstyle. That would be considered a serious insult to the regime. In the only country where the calendar marks the year 112, counting from the birth of founder Kim Il-sung, citizens have access to just 4 television channels, all controlled by the government, of course, while the rest of the world freely navigates the internet. North Koreans live in such a closed information bubble that most don't even know what Google or Facebook are. The internet, as we know it, simply doesn't exist for the 26 million inhabitants of this country. Instead, they have access to a national internet called Kwangmyeon, with rigorously filtered content. And what about democracy? Well, technically North Korea holds elections every 5 years. But there's one small detail. The ballots list only one candidate for each position. Want to vote against that candidate? You'd have to do it in a special booth, under the watchful eyes of government officials. Consider the country that has persecuted Christians the most for over 20 consecutive years. North Korea doesn't tolerate any religion that might compete with the personality cult of the Kim family. Being caught with a Bible can mean execution or being sent to forced labor camps, where an estimated 200,000 political prisoners suffer in inhumane conditions. How can a country live so isolated in the 21st century? What happens inside its hermetically sealed borders? Get ready for a journey into the unknown, where reality often surpasses fiction. North Korea occupies the upper half of the Korean peninsula, with an area of approximately 120,540 square kilometers, slightly larger than the state of Pennsylvania. To the north, the country shares borders with China and Russia, while to the south lies the Korean Demilitarized Zone DMZ, a 2.5-mile wide strip that separates it from South Korea. Ironically, one of the most militarized places on the planet. The North Korean climate is temperate with 4 well-defined seasons. Winters are bitterly cold, with temperatures that can reach minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit in the northern mountains, while summers are hot and humid. The territory is predominantly mountainous, with only 20% of arable land. The most famous mountain is Mount Pictu, a dormant volcano on the border with China, which, according to official mythology, was the birthplace of Kim Jong-il, although Soviet records indicate he was born in Siberia. With an estimated population of 26 million, Pyongyang, the capital, is home to approximately 3 million people and is considered a model city where only the most loyal citizens of the regime are permitted to live. Geopolitically, North Korea's location is strategic. Surrounded by powers like China, Russia, Japan, and South Korea, it serves as a buffer state between China and American allies in the region. This position, combined with its nuclear program, gives the small country disproportionate bargaining power on the international stage. The Korean Peninsula has a millenary history dating back more than 5,000 years, with powerful dynasties like Goguryeo, Silla, and Joseon shaping its cultural identity. For centuries, the Korean people maintained a unified nation, proud of their ethnic and cultural homogeneity. Everything changed in 1910, when Japan annexed Korea and imposed a brutal colonial regime that lasted 35 years. During this period, the Japanese tried to erase Korean identity, prohibiting the teaching of the local language and forcing citizens to adopt Japanese names. More than 200,000 Korean women were sexually enslaved as comfort women for Japanese soldiers, a historical wound that is still not healed. When World War II ended in 1945, Korea was liberated from Japanese rule, but soon became a victim of the Cold War. The peninsula was divided along the 38th parallel. The North fell under Soviet influence, and the South under American influence. What should have been a temporary arrangement solidified when Kim Il-sung, an anti-Japanese guerrilla backed by Stalin, established the Democratic People's Republic of Korea in the North in 1948. The breaking point came in 1950, when North Korea invaded the South, starting the Korean War. The conflict devastated the peninsula for 3 years, leaving more than 3 million dead. When an armistice was signed in 1953, the border between the two Koreas remained practically unchanged, but hatred and distrust were deeply rooted. After the war, Kim Il-sung consolidated his power through an ideology called Juche, self-reliance, combining elements of Marxism, Korean nationalism, and personality cult. He ruled the country until his death in 1994, when his son, Kim Jong-il, took power. The dear leader, Kim Jong-il, intensified the country's international isolation and prioritized military development, even while facing a terrible famine in the 1990s that killed hundreds of thousands of North Koreans. In December 2011, Kim Jong-il passed away, and his son Kim Jong-un, not yet 30, inherited the throne of the Kim dynasty. Under Kim Jong-un, North Korea accelerated its nuclear program, conducting tests that increased global tensions. At the same time, the country oscillated between moments of diplomatic dialogue, such as the summits with Donald Trump in 2018 and 2019, and periods of military provocations and bellicose rhetoric. Visiting North Korea isn't like traveling to any other destination. It's a choreographed experience where every step is monitored and every interaction is carefully managed. Annually, about 5,000 Western tourists, excluding Chinese, venture into this enigmatic country. You can't simply buy a ticket and go. Every tourist must participate in a tour organized by authorized agencies. Visas are issued only with an official invitation letter, and Americans face additional restrictions. Until 2017, they were prohibited from visiting, and after the death of student Otto Warmbier, the U.S. banned its citizens from traveling to the country. Once approved, prepare to leave your cell phone in China or have its use severely restricted. Each group has at least 2 North Korean guides who are, in fact, government agents ensuring you follow all the rules. In Pyongyang, the meticulously maintained capital, you'll visit grandiose monuments like the 65-foot bronze statue of Kim Il-sung on Mansa Hill, where bowing is practically mandatory. The Arch of Triumph, larger than the one in Paris, celebrates the supposed resistance against Japan, while the 558-foot Juche Tower symbolizes the country's official ideology. The Pyongyang Metro, one of the deepest in the world, is decorated with crystal chandeliers and socialist murals. Have you ever visited a subway with chandeliers and palace-like decorations? Well, there you can. North Korean cuisine, surprisingly, can be a highlight of the trip. Kimchi, fermented cabbage, naengmyeon, cold noodles, and bulgogi, grilled marinated meat, are delicious. And yes, you'll probably be invited to try soju, a potent alcoholic drink made from rice or potatoes. Some important tips: never, ever fold or crumple images of North Korean leaders. Always refer to them by their official titles. Don't openly question the political system or make comparisons with South Korea. And remember that your guides may be in danger if you break the rules. They are responsible for your actions. If you're thinking of visiting, carefully consider the ethical implications. Your money will help finance the regime, but will also provide rare interactions between North Koreans and foreigners. North Korea's economy is as peculiar as its political system. Officially based on the principles of socialism and Jewish self-reliance, in practice, it's a complex mixture of planned economy, growing black markets, and international isolation. The GDP per capita is estimated between $1,000 and $2,000 US. The official average salary of a North Korean worker is around $4,000 to $5,001 per month, approximately $5 on the black market. This amount seems absurdly low, and it is, but it's supplemented by a state rationing system that theoretically provides basic food and essential necessities. In reality, this distribution system has been inconsistent since the famine of the 1990s, and most North Koreans rely on informal markets called jangmadang to survive. In these markets, which the government alternately tolerates and represses, a kilogram of rice costs about 5,001, $5, meaning that a month's official salary barely buys a kilogram of rice. In urban areas, a modest 2-bedroom apartment may cost between $3,000 and $15,000 to buy, although technically the property belongs to the state, and what you acquire is the right of use. The formal economy is dominated by heavy and military industry, with about 25% of GDP directed to the armed forces. Agriculture, although employing about 37% of the workforce, suffers from obsolete techniques and fuel shortages. Most electricity is reserved for Pyongyang, leaving the rest of the country subject to frequent blackouts. International sanctions, intensified since 2016 due to the nuclear program, have strangled the country's legal trade. Now, the regime increasingly resorts to illicit activities, such as cyber attacks, currency counterfeiting, and arms trafficking to finance its operations. An economic curiosity, North Korea is one of the few places in the world where Coca-Cola is not officially sold due to American sanctions, although smuggled versions from China can be found on the black market. Living in North Korea means existing in a society where every aspect of life is regulated by the state. The most frightening system is Songbun, a hereditary classification that determines your fate from birth. Divided into three major groups: loyal, wavering, and hostile. Citizens have their opportunities for education, work, residence, and even marriage determined by their social class and family history. In every home and office, you'll find mandatory portraits of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. These portraits are so sacred that during floods, people have died trying to save the images before their own belongings. Proper maintenance of these portraits is checked in regular inspections. Information control is almost complete. Radios and televisions are modified to receive only state channels, and tuning into foreign broadcasts can result in imprisonment. Even so, information from outside reaches through flash drives smuggled from China, containing South Korean K-dramas and Hollywood movies. The regime considers this content a serious ideological threat, and watching Squid Game could literally cost your life. Despite the official prohibition, corruption is widespread. Bribes have become essential to navigate the bureaucratic system, obtain travel permits between cities, avoid punishments, or access better services. The degree of surveillance is suffocating. The Minbin system, neighborhood surveillance, designates one person in each group of 20 to 40 residences to report suspicious activities to the authorities. Neighbors spy on neighbors. Children are encouraged to report their parents, and even impure thoughts are considered crimes. Political prison camps, known as Kwanliso, are perhaps the most sinister aspect of the regime. Human rights organizations estimate that between 80,000 and 120,000 people are detained in these camps, where entire generations of families are punished for crimes such as owning a Bible or watching South Korean films. Conditions in these camps are inhumane. Forced labor, torture, public executions, and medical experimentation are reported by rare escapees. The regime is also known for kidnapping foreigners. In the 1970s and 1980s, dozens of Japanese and South Koreans were kidnapped to train North Korean spies. Even film directors were abducted, like the famous case of South Korean director Shin Sang-ok, kidnapped on Kim Jong-il's orders, an obsessive film buff, to develop the North Korean film industry. However, even in such an oppressive system, human nature finds ways to express itself. In informal markets, young North Koreans exchange foreign music hidden on SD cards. Many secretly use South Korean slang as a form of silent rebellion. And each year, approximately 1,000 people risk their lives to escape, usually through China, in search of freedom. After this journey through North Korea, you may be wondering, is there hope for this isolated country? The answer isn't simple, but there are signs that not even the world's most closed regime can completely halt changes. Despite all the barriers imposed by the government, information from the outside world continues to penetrate North Korea. With each smuggled flash drive containing foreign films, with each secretly captured radio broadcast, the isolation bubble becomes a little less impenetrable. Young North Koreans, especially those near the Chinese border, are increasingly aware of the disparity between their reality and the outside world. The informal markets that emerged after the famine of the 1990s not only altered the economy, but also social psychology. Where citizens once depended completely on the state to survive, many now rely on their own initiative to thrive. This small seed of economic independence may eventually lead to demands for greater autonomy in other areas of life. Diplomatically, even after the failure in negotiations with the U.S. in 2019, the door for dialogue was never completely closed. China and Russia have an interest in maintaining stability on the peninsula without necessarily perpetuating North Korea's extreme isolation. South Korea continues to pursue a policy of engagement, aiming for eventual peaceful reunification. History teaches us that even the most rigid regimes eventually face the need for adaptation. Post-Mao China reformed its economy while maintaining political control. Vietnam found ways to integrate into the global economy without abandoning its political system. Perhaps, at its own pace and manner, North Korea can find a way to improve the lives of its citizens. And there's an indomitable resilience of the North Korean people themselves, who have survived wars, famines, and decades of isolation with a remarkable capacity for adaptation. When change finally comes, whether gradual or sudden, it will be the spirit of survival that helps the nation find its place in an interconnected world. From a land where only 28 haircuts are allowed, a people who freely express not only their personal style, but also their aspirations for a better future may one day emerge. The journey will be long and complex, but history shows us that even the highest walls eventually meet their end.